And like we always had this unspoken rule that you had to like we had this pitcher in the fridge and it was like if you use the last of the Kool-Aid, you have to make more Kool-Aid. And it was like I thought that was normal and I got to college and people were like, "What are you talking about?"
So you never had juice?
No, we always had Kool-Aid. But it was pre-made, so it was like juice, just not juice.
Like in a pitcher in your fridge?
Correct. Yeah.
Like
So
with
you just
powder?
bought the powder at the store.
Correct.
It's cheap. Howdy.
Good
Hey,
day. I was going to say good morning because it's morning for us. It may not be morning
it is morning.
for everyone else, but hello.
Good morning.
Welcome to The Couch, the Office of Spiritual Life podcast. I'm Nathan, as always,
I'm Avery, as always.
and today we have Josh Springer.
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to introduce myself or not.
Well, now you can. Who are you?
I'm Josh Springer. I am a senior at ACU.
And,
the SJ president. Is that what you want me to
yes.
say? Awesome.
Bum,
Soon to be
bum.
lame duck,
bum.
Josh Springer.
Yeah, thank goodness. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Okay, Josh, before we jump into things,
Mm,
we're going to do a little icebreaker.
right.
So I want to know about your time growing up, your family growing up, but I want to know what is one thing that you thought was totally normal about your family
That's a good question.
that later in life you found out was not actually that normal?
My parents, we always had like they were anti-buying like juice at the store because that was expensive, so they bought Kool-Aid, and like we always had this unspoken rule that you had to like we had this pitcher in the fridge, and it was like if you use the last of the Kool-Aid, you have to make more Kool-Aid, and it was like I thought that was normal, and I got to college, and people were like, "What are you talking about?"
So you never had juice?
No, we always had Kool-Aid, but it was pre-made, so it was like juice, just not juice.
Like in a pitcher in your fridge?
Correct. Yeah.
Like
So
with
you just
powder?
bought the powder at the store. 'Cause
Correct.
It's cheap.
Yeah. And my parents did that until I graduated high school.
Wow, your whole life.
My entire life.
So when you go home,
No, not anymore. Why? Don't know.
Tragic.
I know. Now they buy real juice.
Now, because they're empty nesters.
right,
and you're
because
right.
you are no longer a financial burden on your parents.
Yes. Yes. But that was something that I like would just talk about casually, and people are like, "That's weird." Like, sorry.
That's
Huh.
a good one.
So if you need some good Kool-Aid recommendations, I got you.
Yeah, what is the best flavor?
So my dad's favorite when I was growing up was grape, and that's a hot
Ugh.
take. I know, hot take.
It's good. It's good.
It's not.
It's good.
But it makes
It's good.
It makes me like really nostalgic. This isn't what you asked, but I'm gonna tell you anyways. It makes me really nostalgic to the like grape Jolly Ranchers.
Yeah.
So, like
Okay.
those are always there. Like if you see a bag of Jolly Ranchers, odds are high nobody likes those. So there are grape ones in there. My favorite flavor. There's this like peach mango tea that's really good from
Yeah.
Crystal Light.
Yeah, no, the peach mango crystal lights. Do you get them with the caffeine in them?
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, those are the move.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Because you said caffeine, can we just ask Josh, as a graduating Abilenianite,
Mm.
Abilenian, you said Austinite the other day, so I said Abilenianite. What was your go-to coffee shop for the majority of college, and what was your order?
Oh my gosh. I don't like sweet coffee. Okay, I'll start with my coffee
His
shop.
downfall.
It goes between Monk's and Summer Moon. I work at Summer Moon, and I actually worked there because I was like, I'm not in love with this coffee, and I would rather work somewhere I don't like love the coffee at, and be able to go enjoy the place I like really like the coffee. But working at Summer Moon has made that my favorite coffee in Abilene, which is not what I expected. And my go-to order, if I'm not being conscious of things, is a quarter winter moon.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
incredible. Like there's something about the moon milk that I'm like, how did you do that?
It's basically perfect.
It's insane. It's incredible.
I recently learned about whisper moons.
I think those are silly.
Really?
What is a whisper?
It's just a latte with skim milk and a little tiny bit of moon milk, just so you can like taste it. But I'm like, I feel like it's just enough to make you a little bit angry. Like I need a little bit more.
Sure. when I, you know, I always wanted to be a coffee drinker from the time I was really young because my grandpa, we would watch cartoons on Saturday mornings, and I'd always get to drink a little bit of his coffee.
Cute.
And I thought I liked it. And then when my parents started letting me get
You
coffee,
thought you liked it?
I thought I liked it.
Right.
When my parents started letting me get coffee at church, I was like, this is gross. This is horrible. And so essentially I would have half a cup of French vanilla creamer.
Of course.
and then coffee, and then
From
bolus
those little
of sugar.
packets, right? So you had to open it.
No, our church had
Oh.
pumps.
Wow.
So
You were fancy.
I'd pump that thing full of sugar. I'm
Wow.
like, now this is coffee.
That's funny. My go-to order every day at Summer Moon, though, is an Americano or drip. Summer Moon has the best drip in Abilene,
That's good to know.
in my opinion.
Well, perfect.
Great.
That's all.
Thanks. Thanks for
Now-
telling us about your coffee.
You're welcome.
We are currently in Renew Testimony, as you know,
Yes.
for our theme for the year, not only for chapel speakers, but what we value and pay attention to in this office and what we want to platform. So we wanted to have you on here to share a little about your testimony, your childhood, your current day faith,
Yeah.
and all the things in between. So would love to know a little bit about your childhood as we kind of lay a foundation of context for your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. So I was born in South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina. Lived there for 3 years. Then we moved to McDonough, Georgia. It's about an hour and a half south of Atlanta, Georgia. I feel really weird looking between you guys. So sorry if this looks awkward to you guys. Lived in McDonough, Georgia for 10 years until I was 13, 14. Then moved to San Antonio and went to schools in San Antonio for the rest of my middle school and high school career, and then graduated and moved to college. And so this month actually is our 10-year anniversary in San Antonio. So that's the longest place we've ever lived.
Wow.
And growing up, my family, that's really inconsistent. That automatically just kind of, you can't really have a consistent church community that you've grown up in when you move like that. And so that was really hard. And my parents, we didn't really go to church growing up. I would say I grew up in a Christian household. We talked about God. We watched church every now and then. In San Antonio, we went to Oak Hills. When we go to church, that's where we go. But my parents don't go consistently. It's just because they're it's just a time commitment. It's not that they don't want to. And then, so when I came to ECU, it was not a weird thing, but I was not expecting, for some reason, I was not expecting the level of faith development that I've gotten, just because that's not what I've gotten out of a Christian home growing up. Very naive in a lot of ways in my faith, very unaware of a lot of the context of the Bible, and that's been a cool thing for me to learn. And now to be at the end of my time at ACU with my faith, I would say ACU has challenged my faith. It has taught me that there's so much that we literally don't know. And if I had to put it into one word, my favorite way to describe it recently has been, ACU's taught me that there needs to be a lot of wonder in our faith.
I love that.
There needs to be a lot of acceptance of the fact that what Jesus has done for us is not human. And I struggle with that a lot. The logic of what Jesus has done for us, it's not logical. And for a while that was really hard for me. And that's where the wonder piece comes into play for me, because it's not human and it shouldn't be logical and we can't do it. And so letting that be a question that I don't have to answer all the time has been really powerful for my faith.
Yeah. Avery and I had a professor in undergrad. You may have had, it's Brad East.
Heard of him, yeah. I haven't had him.
Yeah, heard of him. But, I took his class my sophomore year. It was actually while I was pledging that I was in his ecclesiology class. And we were asking a lot of really big questions that it was totally right to ask the question, why are we even talking about this? Why does this matter? And his answer to that question was, the reason that we do this and the reason that you do anything in your other Bible classes is not to come to an answer.
Yeah.
It's not to logic or reason it out.
Yeah.
It's that all of this study leads to wonder and awe.
Yeah.
That is the outcome, the desired outcome.
Yeah.
And so I love that. I absolutely love that. That, we want answers. We as humans want answers. We want to know the right thing. But sometimes the right thing to know is just, oh my goodness, how good that is.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to revel in that.
Yeah. And revel with it in community.
Yeah.
It's another great part of conversation is connecting with God's people. Okay, you talked about wonder being important now as you're on the tail end of your academic career here. Connect that back to childhood. which might be a hard question, but you as a child, you said that that's a contrast to kind of obviously human nature, but also you as a person.
Yes.
Who were you in childhood? Moving was probably hard at your age.
Yeah.
Um,
I struggled a lot with, well, as an early child, just as a theme, I did not wonder very much. I loved the idea of being an adult. I loved the idea of being certain and being in charge and understanding. And I loved, I just loved the idea of having responsibility. And so I didn't really have that part of my childhood that was so childlike in a way. And whether that be good or bad, I don't know. But now you asked something else. I'm so sorry.
No, that's so just context of your childhood is you kind of wanted to grow up quickly.
Yes. Yeah.
How I know you said not really growing up in church, but how did that inform that adult-like faith versus
Yeah.
childlike faith that you how did you experience God in childhood as that sort of child personality?
I don't know that I did.
Mm.
And that's kind of heavy, but I don't know that I ever did understand the weight of Christianity and any kind of God that I experienced in childhood. I don't know was God.
Yeah.
I think it was misunderstanding.
Mm.
And so when I got really ACU is the first place where I had really taken a look at my faith and been like, all right, what do I believe and how do I believe it? And so it's been a lot of things in 4 years.
Yeah.
Let's backtrack for a second.
'Kay.
How did you get here
Yeah.
To
to ACU?
oh,
To this room right
well,
now.
so my dream school was A&M, and I wanted to go to A&M so badly. But I also didn't want to go to college at all. This is me, junior, senior year of high school. I was like, I'm going to just go be an adult. I don't need college. College is childish. It's going to be another 4 years that I'm delaying myself, and I don't need to do that. I'll just go make a career and be successful and do that. And so real estate, I was looking to get my real estate license. I was like talking to realtors around the city, and I was like, I'm going to stay in San Antonio, going to move out. That would have been crazy. And I'm just not going to do that. And my parents were very anti that. They were like, you need to go to college. You need to do that. And so it was COVID.
Oh, right.
And yeah, and ACU was the only school that was offering in-person tours. And the only reason I'd heard of ACU is because they spammed my email consistently. I'm not even sure how they found my email, how they found my address. They just did. And nobody in my family's gone to ACU. Nobody had heard of it. It was just, it was wild. And so I had applied to 3 schools. I applied to A&M, ACU, and UTSA. I applied on the last day of applications in the state of Texas, and I applied to the Mays Business Program at A&M. Later to find out that Mays accepts the first 1,000 people and nobody after that. And so if you get in, there are 1,000 spots to accept people, and if they filled up those 1,000 spots, tough. And so I got into A&M on I forget what they called it. I'd have to go to like
Blinn?
yes, I'd have to go to a
Yeah.
sister school
Yeah.
for a year, and then I would transfer in. And I was like, I'm not doing that. That sounds goofy. I'm not doing that. And then it was down to UTSA and ACU, and ACU was cheaper. And so it was cheaper to come to ACU, live on campus, than it would have been to live at home and go to UTSA.
Really?
Wow.
Isn't that incredible? It's insane. Yeah.
Huh.
And it was not by much. It was by like a couple $100, but still enough to make the point. And so we drove to ACU. We did an in-person tour, and that day I put my deposit down, and I was feeling excited
Wow.
about it. I got in the car, went home. I was like, what did I do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did I do? Why am I going to this school that I've never heard of?
Wow.
I was a business management major because I wanted to do real estate. That seemed the most real estate adjacent thing. And I got to ACU. So this is like October of my senior year. Fast forward to the spring, I was like, I need to go back and see that thing again. So we come back, we do another tour. We see the inside of the dorm where I'm going to live. And then I was like, fine, like we'll do it, whatever. It's too late to switch now. Like if I switch anywhere now, I have to go home and stay at home, and I just would not have been good. And then I get to ACU, it's Wildcat Week, August now, and I'm driving in, my mom's behind me, and I was like, I'm leaving. I hate this. And my mom and I had a countdown timer, a shared countdown timer on our phone. She's like, 30 days. If you still hate it, you can leave.
Wow.
And sure enough, 30 days came around. I called her. I said, at like 8 a.m., I was like, I still hate it. I'm leaving. She's like, yeah, you know you're not. She's like, so that countdown timer was just to make me feel better in the moment, which thank goodness she did it because I
Sure.
really needed it. And so she was like, yeah, no, you're not. And if you leave, she gave me a slew of things that would become my responsibility financially that I could not afford. So I stayed at ACU, and I hated ACU for a long time. I hated ACU until the end of that semester, so into my first semester. And then I tried to transfer to Baylor, couldn't afford it. Got in. It was incredible how much that school costs. And so didn't go. Came back, had this realization that I was just going to have to make it work and be happy and suck it up, at least for the year. And so I looked for, I started noticing, I didn't really look for it, noticing that there were several professors that, frankly, were, I thought, too good to be at ACU. And so I was like, why do you choose? In my head, my logic was, why do you choose a university where you make less money probably, and it's a small university in the middle of nowhere, and where you could go and be a professor at a bigger school? And so I emailed them and I asked them to get coffee, and I asked them that. And it was through those 4 conversations with those 4 different professors that I truly fell in love with ACU and truly began the process. It wasn't instant, but truly began the process of falling in love with ACU and seeing the point. And not to say that I haven't struggled with things here, and there are things that I'm like, wow, that's really silly, but I've been successful at ACU to a point that I am convinced that if I had been at any other university, anything else, I would not have been successful.
Yeah.
And so it has been an incredible story, and one that Josh 4 years ago would have not predicted at all. So.
Josh, I love that for many reasons. One being, so we did not have the same story getting here.
Yeah.
Because I started going to ACU camps when I was in the summer between 5th and 6th grade. So I knew ACU. Right. My church was like an ACU pipeline church. But I vowed my entire life I was not going to come here. I was going to go to a state school. The only 2 applications that I finished in high school, and I applied to all of them on the first day that I had a panic attack. I'm like, I have to, if I don't get these in now, I'm never going to go to college. So I got in A&M in their archaeology program, and ACU. And I was like, why did I even apply to ACU? I don't want to go there.
Right.
And then I realized I wanted to go into ministry.
Right.
And every single mentor that I had from church or people that I knew here had gone through the Bible program here.
Right.
And it was hearing their testimonies that I was like, okay, I guess this place is going to work.
Darn it.
Yeah, dang it. I had this idea of being like a frat guy at a public university.
Right.
Hilarious.
Right.
Which, if you know me, that literally doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you scream frat.
Yeah. I mean, look at me. The thing that Josh says to me more than anything is, wow, you look like a Moody today.
I said that one time.
2.
And you were wearing a white T-shirt with jeans and some white
like
frat shoes. I was like,
T&M.
yeah. We were sitting in this room, and Nathan's sitting in the chair that you can't see, and he says, yeah, I have a soccer game later. And without a delay, I say, is that why you look like that? And that's the outfit he's been wearing all day, not why he looks like that. And it's been a running joke ever since.
I love this conversation because I think it's one I've heard many a time on campus.
Yes.
And I think it's actually, specific to ACU and would be specific to every university with freshmen based off the pros and cons of whatever university. Mm-hmm. However, I think there's something universal about moving to a new place, feeling really overwhelmed and intimidated by all that is being placed in your lap.
Right.
And it takes time. Like, I think that's the point. Mm-hmm. And it takes faith and effort to give something a chance, which, as someone, as you're saying, kind of painting the picture of who you were growing up, would seem naive and unproductive. Mm-hmm. And so it's just cool that took wonder on your part 4 years ago.
Right.
And then 4 years later, you're coming to this, like, in retrospect, wow, the wonder of God really created a space and belonging for me.
And
So cool.
not having to come up with the reasons that this place was awesome by yourself.
Yes.
Right? Like there's something to be said of like I came to this realization, you know, this was me learning to love this place.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not quite what happened. It's hearing why other people love this place,
Right.
Yeah.
accepting it,
Yeah.
and then finding your own way afterwards.
Right.
That the value of other people's stories can sometimes come first before we develop those feelings ourselves.
And trusting in that.
Mm-hmm.
And that two things can be true at once. Like,
Right.
you enjoy your time here and also don't in some way, you know, like
Yes.
fill in the blank. And I think that's becoming a more and more apparent reality, I think, as Christians, as things are becoming just a lot more extreme and polarized, is like it either has to be all good or all bad. And it's in this nuance that we actually have to be having discussions with people we know and love, trusting their word, asking the good questions. And that's where, like, the good work is done.
Yeah.
Even though gray space is so hard,
Yes.
it produces so much fruit.
Yes, that's another thing that's been huge for me is asking questions about faith, about everything. There are several administrators who would agree to the fact that I haven't been afraid to ask questions, and whether that be good or bad, it has created both for me, good and bad. I would unequivocally say that if there was one thing I could recommend to anybody in the world, and especially ACU, it's to ask hard questions. Ask scary questions, and ask questions that you're scared to ask. Because there are so many reasons, but if they're faith specific, I think the conclusion that I've come to is that if your question is big enough to scare God away, like what? I just don't think that's a reality that's true.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't think that's possible. And so I think that's bad logic to say that, like, this question's too big, too scary for God, when in reality, it's just like, that's not even, I just think that's bad logic with what we know about God. So.
Yeah, nothing is too intimidating for God.
He can handle it.
He can handle it.
You guys are better at making these things sound pretty. I'm just like blurting words.
Okay, so you said, you know, administrators, you are SGA president.
Correct.
Walk us through why you wanted to run for SGA president, and then what have you learned about yourself as SGA president?
Yeah. Why I wanted to run, I thought I would be good at it, and I really loved SGA, and I loved the platform it gave students to ask hard questions.
Yeah.
And I love being in those rooms and having those conversations. And so there are aspects of the role that I knew that I would excel at, and I knew I wouldn't excel at, i.e. public speaking. If you saw me public speak a year ago, you would have been like, wow, this guy is...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
It was bad. It was incredibly bad, actually. And so there were aspects that I knew were going to challenge me, and for some reason I was excited about that. And so about 2 years ago, Athena and I, no, it wasn't quite 2 years ago. It was almost 2 years ago. I was like, we should run for this, and we were both like, I was like, I suck at public speaking. I don't know if you're good at it or not. She's like, no, I'm terrible at it. And I was like, okay, so we should join Toastmasters. And so Athena and I, every Wednesday for 6 months, did Toastmasters at University Church of Christ. Right across the street, there's a group of people that meet, and we were Toastmasters International.
What is this?
Toastmasters is an international speaking organization that basically helps people public speak. And so every week from 12 to 1 on a Wednesday, we would go to this church with these like same 10 people, and we would public speak. And we created these speeches. We did, I'm forgetting what they're called. They're like basically, darn it, they're...
Mock?
No, they're called like basically pop questions. They ask you questions, and then there'll be questions like, one of them at one time that I got was just incredibly bad. He was like, what is your favorite grass, Josh? And you have to talk for 2 minutes, no stuttering, nothing. You have to come up with something on the spot. And it's like, I don't know. And so...
And you do not like to feel incompetent.
Correct. And that was a fantastic way to feel incompetent for an hour every week.
Push through the
yeah.
uncomfortability, even though I know that's not a word. I love to say it.
It's a joke in our office because the word is discomfort. Uncomfortability is not a word.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like it though. I'm here
Thanks.
for it. But now I've forgotten the question or where I was going.
No, what have you learned about yourself as
Oh.
SGA president?
Yes, it is that there's nothing special about any of us. Some people just do things. Um, like, I think that I have been blessed with a really, really accomplished, on paper, accomplished journey through ACU. Um, I've gotten to build a resume that I'm really proud of. And I've gotten a few questions from people, and it's like, well, how did you do it? What things? And there's this like assumption that there's something special about me, and I just could not disagree with that more because I don't think there's anything inherently um, special about me and my characteristics that I um, that have allowed me to build what I've been so proud of here. And I think it's been doing the things that scare me and doing them consistently and being scared and doing them anyways and challenging myself. And because of that, I think anybody can do stuff like
Yeah.
this. I get a lot of the times like, oh, I could never do that. And it's like, I really want to, I just couldn't do it. And I'm like, well, that's just not true. I think anybody really can do anything they've put their mind to. It's just, are you going to put your mind to it and do
Yeah.
the things that are hard?
Another thing you mentioned to me the other day was you came in not really afraid of confrontation. And talk me through kind of learning how to navigate people better
Yeah.
as SGA president.
Yeah, I definitely am one to be confrontational. I'm not afraid to have a hard conversation. And a lot of what that looked like was just being too abrasive. And I would just not be graceful and gracious in the ways that I need to be in conversations. In my sophomore year, when I got to run Purple Outfitters and Oasis, Tatum McClellan, now Rogers, she was the person who really, really taught me this. We ran Purple Outfitters together, and we like bickered back and forth. We like didn't get along, and she's somebody I had a lot of respect for. And it took a few months, but eventually I realized, I was like, oh my goodness, I have been way too abrasive. Like it was just like with the team, with the company, with the projects, with the things, I was too headstrong, and I was like, man, I have got to have more grace for people. And so that looks a lot like practically that looks a lot like not speaking. And so I have a thing in the office that I tell the people on my team. I'm like, there's 5 seconds. 5 seconds of awkward silence allows people a foot in the door to say something that they weren't going to say before.
Yes.
And so I often will, when we're in meetings, I'll ask a question and maybe say that the standard is 10 seconds to let it be quiet. I'll let it be quiet for 15, because that 5 seconds, more often than not, allows people the room to step in and share something they wouldn't have before. And oftentimes that's valuable and something that we really need to hear, and something we use. And so I would say I came in too abrasive, too headstrong, and I've realized that leadership is a lot more about being quiet and letting others talk than it is about talking yourself. So
I love that.
That's good. And that's a
That's
hard
good.
thing. I'm not
Oh,
good at that.
So hard.
oh, I'm not a pro. I'm not good at it. It's just what I've noticed.
Yeah.
Trust.
Wow. One, I've liked being in this office with you as SGA president because you have come in and asked us hard questions. And this sounds silly. Most people don't come and ask us
Anything.
anything.
Right.
They just assume. And so I just love, I don't know if you feel this way, but that's gained a good partnership, and we've gotten
Yes.
to work on some exciting things
Yes.
because of that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your hard questions. I appreciate, it's not confrontation, it's
Right.
just
No.
directness and caring about things
Right.
and wanting to hear people out.
Yes.
You have come in this office constantly to clarify things or ask,
Yeah.
how's this going?
Yeah.
And you've given us a voice in that way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we appreciate it a
Well, I
lot.
appreciate that. Yeah, y'all have been awesome. That reminds me of something else that I've learned. That going back to the headstrong thing is that I never have the context that I think I have. There's always a piece of context that I'm missing. one of the things that I got to do this past summer was meet with all of SLT individually. And Kevin Campbell, I won't ever forget him saying this. He said something to the effect of, the farther away you are from an issue, the easier it is not to see how big of an issue it is.
Yeah.
And he says it a lot, and that's not exactly how he says it, but it's the same thing. And so his example was, students complain sometimes about the Lunsford lights being out or the Luns being dark or something. And he's like, from his office, it's really easy to say, oh, well, they're just being silly. They don't need to worry about that. And so to keep himself kind of attached to that, when he hears about it enough, he'll go walk the Luns at night by
Love it.
himself. And he'll say, will I let my kids, would I be comfortable with my kids? Well, he has younger kids. Would I be comfortable with my kids walking this? And if the answer is no, then that's a really great way for him to get on the same level as people who experience that consistently. And so always having the posture of going into situations with questions and help me understand why this is, been this way, why we continue to do it this way. And not only are people much more receptive to those questions and being able to explain their kind of logic, they are much more privy to listen to your points if you let them share theirs first and their point of view. And oftentimes you are like, why do we do this way? And they say, well, this is why. And you say, well, I was thinking about this, but now I see why that would be an incredibly hard issue and that would create a lot more problems.
Yeah.
And do you think that there's any room to compromise? And from there, often things get done.
Yeah.
They still take time. They still are hard, but those questions of, tell me about that from your perspective, let me tell you about it from mine, and then let's go forward from there is huge.
And that's bringing it full circle to wonder.
Yeah.
That is taking kind of that posture and wondering
Yeah.
versus when we're far away from each other, we can assume
Mhm.
or judge or,
Yeah.
get in our heads.
Yes.
We can demonize one another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And instead, that creates connection, which, again, is good leadership and good faith.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To end, I feel like, sorry, I asked all the last questions.
No.
To
I was getting ready to
end-
do this too.
Okay. This is not the last question, but I would just like to end on this. This is such a crazy question to ask. Not really. What is your favorite thing about God as you graduate? Like, what do you love the most about God in this season of your
my
life and in
goodness.
your faith formation as you are moving to New York
Yes.
in a couple months?
Yes.
What are you taking with you in your faith?
So many things. If I had to highlight a few, I would say that I used to have this understanding of God that if you think about God, I'm a big analogy guy. You're walking down these paths and the paths split. One has lights and one's dark. And of course, the one that has the lights is the one God wants you to go down. And if you somehow get on the dark path, you can never get back and all of those things. And what I've realized is more than likely both paths are dark and God's going to go with you either way. And so I think God gives us options. God gives us the ability to go and choose him and choose to share about him in our choices. And so that's one of the biggest things that I think I will forever take with me, especially as I graduate and leave ACU. And yeah, I think that's the biggest
I
thing.
love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Thank you for being here, Josh.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We've
Fun.
not only loved having you on the podcast, but we have been blessed by you in your role
Likewise.
at ACU, and we will continue to support you in the ways
Yep.
that we
Cool.
can
Yeah.
as you go from here.
No, I appreciate you guys and the mentors you've been to me and all good things.
Hooray.
Yay. Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening.
Perf.